Welcome back to Inspiring Generations. I'm your host, Celeste Williams. This show today that I have for you is going to be interesting, for sure. Only because a lot of us, we deal with trauma in life, and sometimes we don't know where to place it. But there's a time, right, when information comes along that might open up wounds that you had buried and you didn't know that it infected you in a cultural, social, and intellectual way. The gentleman I have in studio with me today, I just met him. I don't know a lot about him, but I felt that I knew him through a documentary that he did this year for Black History Month with the CBC. It was a Zoom documentary. I think it was picked up on CCTV for a broader audience, but I want to bring it full circle and talk about what inspired me to ask my guest today to come and give us some inspiration of his journey and why he's in the position today and who inspired him to want to be a community activist, an advocate, and so much more. So without further ado, I want to get into the program. I want to welcome Mr. Khalil Sadiq to Inspiring Generations.
Hello.
Hi, how are you today,
I'm
Khalil?
fantastic. I'm so happy to be here in the studio with you and speaking about some things that are very important in today's society.
Yes, it is. Yes, definitely. I am a big advocate myself for equality and justice. You know, I spent 40 years watching, different segments of society not get the healing that they need. And we continue to see things in a black and white situation. And we don't get out of that box and see that we have to bring all people together to see the inequity and the injustice that is done even within other cultures towards each other, period. So I want my audience to know that Khalil is from Georgia, right?
Correct.
Can you talk about that journey from Georgia to Massachusetts?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm originally from Georgia, born actually in Florida, but raised in a small town called Camilla, Georgia. So Camilla, Georgia is like 27 miles south of Albany, Georgia. Albany, Georgia is relatively a historical city when it comes to the civil rights movement. A lot of great things came from that city, Albany. Martin Luther King did some marching in that space. So I'm 27 miles south of Albany, Camilla, Georgia. Dirt roads, a lot of trees, and a lot of good times in the sun. So raised in a small rural town, graduated high school, and I went directly into the Marine Corps.
Wow. And what inspired you to serve in the Marine Corps?
Well, part of the reason why I decided to go into the Marine Corps is because I wanted to have something that I could do after high school that would really elevate me. And the Marine Corps recruiter would come to the high school often. And finally, he got my attention where I actually sat down, had a conversation with him. Yeah. And he really gave me an understanding of how powerful the Marine Corps was. And I decided that that's what I wanted to do after high school. Also, it gave me an opportunity to pay for my college.
Yes.
So one, it gave me an opportunity to get out of a small town. And two, it gave me an opportunity to pay for college. So those are the two main things why I entered into the Marine Corps.
Yes, I envy people who could go into the military because as a young woman at high school, I used to hang around the recruiting center because I had 5 uncles that were each branch of the military. But the one that was in the Marines was the hardest core one. You know, that's my Uncle Irv. Shout out Uncle Irv. Yeah, he was the hardest core of all of them. And I used to hear them bicker back and forth for who was the better branch. No, I'm in the Army, I'm in the Navy. You know, they used to go on, and I had such a appreciation for men that served. You know, even though those men in my family were away on tour, a couple of them served at Vietnam, you know, it makes me want to ask you, where did you serve? Like,
Well, fortunately, I didn't do any wartime.
Okay.
But I was stationed in Hawaii. So I was stationed in Hawaii for 3 years. I did a year in Okinawa. I was attached to a grunt battalion, 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines. So really hardcore unit, but my job was an administrator, right? So I worked in what is called SRBs, service record books.
Okay.
So anytime a Marine would come into the office, I would do anything related to your pay. If you got swim qual, if you were on the course with your rifle, anything pertaining to your service record book, I would be the person to do your administrative work. So a lot of my work, I work with Marines from privates to master sergeants.
wow. Let me clear up what I just said. I have an appreciation for men and women who serve in military branches. I just want the women to know that I know you out there, and I know you're doing it too.
Absolutely.
So you finished your service, and you moved to Boston.
Well, right after I got out of the military, I moved back to Atlanta.
Oh, wow.
So the majority of my family lives in Atlanta. Stayed in Atlanta for a couple of years, and then I actually did move to Cambridge. So a friend of mine was living in Cambridge at the time. He kind of encouraged me that there was a great opportunity to go back to school, get my education, and he felt like Boston was a really good place to do that. So after doing some research, I said, you know what, I think this is a great idea. So I decided to move to Cambridge. So I moved in Cambridge in 2002.
Wow. And how was Cambridge? How did you like that atmosphere over there, being such a college town?
Right.
Near MIT, and you work in tech already before you came, right?
More community organizing again. Really enjoyed Cambridge. At the time when I went to Cambridge, this was a year after 9/11.
Oh, wow.
So there was such a heightened awareness about Muslims and terrorism, and there was just, similar energy that we have right now.
Right.
And, very practicing Muslim at that time. So a large part of my work was just being in the Muslim community and really advocating for Muslims and educating people who didn't know about Islam. What is Islam? What are Muslims about, right? And so that's where you have this multicultural type of information and education that I was doing at that time. So a lot of my work in Cambridge really was centered around community involvement. I spent about two years in Cambridge. During that 2-year period, I actually did a CCTV television show for a number of years called Muslims Inside and Out.
Wow.
And so this was an opportunity for I had people in Cambridge to call in, ask me questions about Islam and Muslims, and then we have a great dialogue about it. So I had a lot of good time in Cambridge, just educating the community about something that a lot of people just didn't know much about.
Yeah. And ignorance is bliss when you don't have the knowledge of people in your community, just everyday people that, are alienated and isolated. And it's great that you bring that to your platform. Education is key. I believe that. I strongly believe it. But you did something that inspired me so much this year. You opened up some trauma for me with your documentary, Stereotypes and Assumptions. And we're gonna talk about that a little bit, but I want you to get into what inspired you to even go in that direction, because when I was growing up in Brooklyn, we faced that. And that's when I saw that, I thought I buried it. because we just didn't talk about it. We would go into these stores and feel like we didn't belong in our own communities. You know, we were treated like thieves. Soon, the moment we walked in that door, we were treated like we were a thief. You know, and we would notice how other groups of nationalities of people or groups were treated differently from us. You know, if they were not out of the community and not black, they would get treated a little more polite. And we used to talk about it amongst each other. And could I tell you, when I watched that, I was like, I want to always talk about that, but I couldn't, and here comes you. So what inspired you to go in that direction?
Well, the inspiration really is Joan Cromwell.
Hi, Joan. Shout out.
She reached out to me, and she had the idea to do that. And there's a film, I forgot the name of the film, it was a silent film that we actually saw with that, which really set up this understanding about stereotypes and assumptions. So just shout out to Joan Cromwell for just having the creativity to want to go in that direction, and it really felt good. I think the film did a really good job kind of setting up the context of what stereotypes and assumptions looks like. And so just, you know, showing the film, having the conversation about it, really gave people an opportunity to reflect on how they are trauma-filled throughout the day. And I can definitely relate to what you're saying about a black person going into a store, being followed, being trailed. These are all things that are associated with stereotypes and assumptions. And some things have to be done about it. It can't be just left into a vacuum. So that opportunity really gave people an opportunity to have the conversation, have the dialogue, and really get to the bottom line of how we can do something about these stereotypes and assumptions.
So let's talk a little bit about your company, your 901.
901
Consultant. How did you get there? Like, you know, I could see you being a community organizer from your bio. You know, it was great. But consulting now, you're consulting. How's that been for you?
It's been great. My inspiration about that was July of 2020, right? So this is when George Floyd was murdered and Breonna Taylor was murdered. During that time period, I was doing some support group work for Black Leaders Group I've been running. And when that happened, I decided that it was time for me to no longer be a part of a support group. I had to actually go out and make my own type of business and actually start the conversation myself. So my inspiration around that was really the murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. The work is emotionally taxing, but it's very much rewarding. It gives me a lot of great opportunity to have good conversations with predominantly businesses that are led by white leadership and have tough conversations about race, racism, stereotypes, assumptions, trauma. All of these things are very relevant. And you know, as we look at how the news works and everything like that, we know that there's still a lot of trauma, a lot of healing that needs to happen. So, me being a racial equity consultant, I'm one of many that's happening in America today. This industry right now is growing. So a lot of companies are realizing that in order for us to eradicate a lot of the stereotypes and assumptions, we have to find people who are experts in that field who can help us build the capacity to have the conversations, to make the policies, and to hire the right people in order to have a real type of community where you're having the removal of these stereotypes and assumptions and actually having real great relationships.
Yeah, that's it. That's much needed. And I'm glad that you're doing this work. I'm so happy that you're in our community. You live here in Chelsea.
Been here since 2016. So I moved here December 2016, and prior to being here, I lived in Dorchester.
Okay.
I lived in Dorchester. So a little bit about me. Twice homeless veteran,
Hey.
right? And so a lot of my work is about just dealing with people who are everyday people, people who are struggling. A lot of times people who are ignored, people who are not listened to.
Yeah. I can relate. I totally can relate, you know, because I try to inspire generations that are coming behind me, because I face homelessness. I was just talking about this the other day with a gentleman that watched me go through that homelessness with my 2-year-old. And I got up out of that. I started going to school, you know, cleaning up my act, so to speak, finding my strengths, not blaming anybody for my homelessness. But I was young, and, you know, you get pulled so many different ways. But you don't realize you got another little person that you're responsible for, so you have to pick up your game and, you know, get going. And when I was homeless, I said to myself, well, I'm going to go to nursing school. You know, because I was already trained in it, and it was a quick fix to get money. And so that's what I did, nurse's assistant. And then I was on a roll. In 2002, I enrolled in Cambridge College. And I took family and community systems, which was the change of my whole life. Because I got to, you know, indulge with others in the philosophy and the sociology, you know, and just like you said, ordinary, everyday people. And they catered to students that were over 39.
I graduated from Cambridge College.
Oh, well, alumni here. Okay, let's jams on that one. I love it. I love it. So that's why I was like, how is Cambridge been to you? Because I know I love Cambridge, and it gave me so much richness. Because as you know, at Cambridge College, our professors came from Harvard. The ones that were getting their thesis, you know, and their PhDs, they were coming to give us some of what they were getting, and I so appreciated that. And so moving forward, 2021, I get to start meeting like-minded people, you know, that have an aim and a destiny, you know, on one accord, so to speak. So the CBC, as you know, Chelsea Black Community, has been so good to me, and I appreciate them. How did you get involved with the Chelsea Black community?
How did I get involved? How did I get involved? I just remember Joan. Joan Cromwell just making a real good impression. And me being curious, you know, so as a community organizer, it's my job to be in the community and to listen. To be in the community and to listen. When you start listening, you find out who the players are. You find out who the people are that know things. You find out who the decision makers are. So that's how I found about CBC, being in the community, listening, finding out where the energy was, and then finding out what people most wanted to know about, to do, and then finding yourself, how could you be useful to people?
Yeah, I think we did a project with you, right, for GBH?
Did we? Oh, yeah.
You remember that? Threw you a curveball right then. Jog that memory. Come on now, wake up. That was our second meeting, and you impressed me even then, because he was like, come on, y'all get together, and it's after George Floyd. We need to know where we're at right now. We need to know where the community's at as far as healing. Do you see any of that starting to manifest?
Healing?
Healing.
Yeah, it's starting to happen. You know, one of the great things that I see about Chelsea is the hiring decisions that they're making when it comes to racial equity right now. So we know we have Dr. Jennings right now, a person that I've met, work with. I think he's a fantastic hire. We have Candace Perez, who has just been hired, our new racial equity consultant. And so these two hires, to me, give me an indication how serious Chelsea is taking this. And for me, just the thought of that brings sense of healing.
Right.
So I am starting to see a pathway toward healing, but it has to go beyond the hiring. We have to do the work.
Yeah, we have to inspire, like the title of this show says, we have to inspire other generations to keep that going.
Absolutely.
Once it starts to heal, we want to keep it going. We don't want to go back to the old hurts, that we've grown accustomed to. Because you can hurt so much where you become numb.
Numb. Absolutely.
And then you don't care anymore.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so we don't want generations going forward to get lost. Because I know the generation before mine, they didn't want to talk about certain issues, social issues that blacks were facing. I know we can boycott something and not, and make a statement.
Absolutely.
I can say, I choose not to spend my money over there anymore. And I might not get 1,000 people to back me up, but in my own mind, I'm boycotting.
Yeah,
okay?
protesting.
So it can be an individual a choice to make a stand.
Yeah, protesting. That's what I'm hearing, protesting. And I've done my fair share of protesting. I've worked with the Poor People's Campaign. I did that in 2018. And so we did a lot of demonstrations right in front of the state capitol, right there. And there's benefit in protesting, right? It's performance, but that's not all it is, right? Protesting has its place, but beyond protesting, we do have to have relationship development, getting to know people. Shouting only works so much. Ranting only works so much. Holding signs and doing all types, that only works so much. There does come a time where you have to learn how to sit down and listen to someone. Sit down and make a negotiation. Sit down and understand that there are certain things that you may not agree with, and how do you move forward from that? So relationship development, I think, is key to all of this, in getting to learn how to actually dialogue with someone.
Yes. I had to make those steps every step of the way, even when I was spit on, disrespected, stereotyped. I'm summing up all of what we're talking about right now, in a sense where we didn't think that we had to go to a therapist to get over those things. Like I would say to my mom, well, this is such and such happened to me, and get over it, move on. That won't be the first person, and it won't be the last.
No, that's changing right now, right? Which is one of a huge benefit that's happening right now. There has been a change in the stereotyping of mental health in the Black community. And I believe right now we're taking mental health much more seriously. Companies are taking it much more seriously. Now they're now integrating that into the culture, where now you have 5 mental health days or something like that. And so just this thing about mental health and not speaking about your traumas, I think that's fading away now. I think people are now speaking more clearly about their traumas.
This generation,
right? And demanding companies do something with that. And companies are, nonprofits, for-profits, they are now creating spaces where mental health is serious, and that traumas such as racial trauma is something that's very serious. So that I'm starting to see a lot of change in the assumptions about mental health and things of that nature.
Yeah, because I few years back, I was having an issue with it. I was like, are the powers that be equipped, to deal with people when they have these episodes of trauma? Do they just get thrown in jail, or, shipped off and with no treatment whatsoever, and then let back into the community, and they're back, on the same treadmill. I call it a treadmill because, you just keep on going. But I so want to see more from you. Now that you're here with us, I know that you bring quality to everything that you do. I know that you do. You don't have to tell me that. I know you do. That's why I'm inspired. And I only talk to people that inspire me. If you don't have a positive input, even though I might be bogged down with things, I'll find something positive out of that situation. And it's easier said than done for some of us than others. And I do have compassion for people who are dealing with mental health issues. We talk about that on this platform. We talk about many broad subjects. But on a lighter note, Khalil, to sum it up, I really wanted to know, how do you have fun?
How do I have fun?
How do you have fun, Khalil?
What is fun?
With all this advocacy and stuff.
How do I have fun? I don't even know how to answer that. I'll tell you what I do to stay inspired.
Okay.
Right. So I'm a runner.
Okay.
So I really enjoy running. So, inspiration for me is running, getting that heart rate up. I think that is a really good antidote when it comes to anxiety, when it comes to worry, when it comes to stress, is exercise. So exercise is how I, stay inspired. It's fun. I run with a group called the Boston Black Men Run.
Oh, wow.
Right? So they are national, and one of the newest chapters is here in Boston. So we've been around since last year. We're going to be celebrating our year anniversary in a couple of weeks. And so that group is tremendously fun, it's tremendously educating, it's tremendously fulfilling. And that's what keeps me going, being around people who are inspired, being around people who want to continue to push themselves, being around people who are courageous. These are the things that keep me inspired. It's fun. So what other things do I do for fun? Things like this, socializing. I love music.
You ever listen to Diggable Planets?
Oh, absolutely.
Because nobody understood them back then. You were saying about the Muslim thing. They were so deep, right?
Digital Planets.
Diggable Planets.
That's the 90s
We take
group.
you back to the 90s.
That's a 90s group.
And that's my type of music. So I like jazz.
Oh, big fan of jazz. Ella Fitzgerald.
Right?
Duke Ellington.
You're going to have to
Dinah
bring some
Washington.
jazz healing to the community, Khalil. Look up one of them jazz bands and tell them, come on down and play for the people in Chelsea.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you do have fun in your life.
I do.
Okay?
I do.
Because life's too short not to. And like you said, sometimes the pangs and it's taxing what you do, So I am pleased to know that you get out there and you run it off, and that's what inspires you. Can you give young people out there that are having trouble with trauma as far as their race, as far as someone body shaming them, what strengths can you pull out of your life to give to our young people?
Well, one of the things I do is I listen and I watch inspirational videos on YouTube. And I do that every morning. It primes me, right? So I get up, boom, I put on my video, and they're speaking about inspirational things. So the first thing I would do is that whenever you start your day, start it off with something that's going to be positive. It doesn't even have to come from yourself. We have tons of content out there, so YouTube is a great place. I would say start there. Next, your circle, right? Who are the people that you surround yourself with, who you feel comfortable around, who you feel like you can share something? I think that is super important when it comes to just trying to find yourself and get clarity. And then from there, teachers, parents, any other adults who you can relate to. I think at the end of the day, you have to realize that you can't do anything by yourself. You have to find a way to get support. I think it's really important not to try to do anything by yourself because a lot of things can come up that can cause problems. So find content that motivates you. Stay connected to your friends, and then find adults that you can also relate to that can emphasize the positiveness in you, and then provide you with resources that you can go to.
Wow, many strengths, many strengths. You hear that? So surround yourself with a great support system. That's what I wind up doing, and that's what makes me brave today. People say to me, what qualifies you to ask people questions?
Your curiosity.
Curiosity, that's one. 2, I love people. I just love people. I want to see the best for people, like people saw the best for me when I couldn't see it. And that's why, I'm grateful to CCTV for letting me have this platform. I always say it because my aim is to inspire as well. And I aspire to be this great artist one day. I aspire to have someone help me write my book, that I could trust to share those valuable gifts of information that I have about myself to that person. But until then, I'll continue to seek out people who are worthy of sending inspiration to the community. And I thank you for watching, all the people that watch. I know that you have a lot of questions about why I do this, and it's only because I do it out of love. So I want to thank you for watching Inspiring Generations, and I'll see you back next time.